Welcome, global audience, to another wonderful weekend of the Global Days of Unity. We're so honored to have you all join us today for a great session that we're so excited to share with you all. And for those of you who are joining for the first time, the Global Days of Unity is our monthly offering to the world, where we present diverse voices from across the world, from all different disciplines, to uplift the field with unity, peace, and love. And we're very, very excited this month to share our first episode of The Pulse. And The Pulse is not a one-way presentation that we're just presenting to you. This is a global conversation, a community discussion, if you like, a courageous conversation where you, the audience, get to ask questions in real time. I'd like to share and invite our panelists today from all across the world who are joining us, our presenters. We have Bruce Lipton, cellular biologist and well-known author. Welcome, Bruce.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having our audience with us. We're so honored to have them here.
Thank you, Bruce. Bhavani Lev, welcome. And Bhavani is an amazing conscious being who has dedicated her life to uplifting consciousness, especially in the business space. Welcome, Bhavani. And Bhavani is also the founder of UPLIFT and Global Days of Unity. Welcome.
Thank you.
We have Kristin Hoffmann, amazing singer-songwriter and just incredible artist who just shares love and passion to the world through music. Welcome, Kristin.
Such an honor to be here. Thank you, Chris.
Anand Mehrotra from Rishikesh, India, spiritual teacher, incredible being. Welcome, Anand.
Thank you for having me here. It's such a blessing to be here.
And we have Jyoti Ma, a dear, dear friend for many, many decades, actually. And Jyoti has devoted her life to bringing forward the voice of the indigenous nations, the First Nations people of our world. Welcome, Jyoti.
Thank you for having me.
So today is a very, well, this weekend actually is a very, very special weekend because it's also the weekend of the International Day of Peace, which is on the Monday. And this weekend, hundreds of organizations from across the world are converging to present messages of peace to the world. There's so many events going on, and we're actually also part of many of these events. So this particular session is also broadcast into a few other events that are happening around the world. So it's just great to all co-create together as one global community. And today's theme is inner peace to outer peace. So the discussion today is about peace. And because we're starting, because it's inner peace to outer peace, I'd like to invite Anand. Anand, would you like to just share a meditation, which is quite a tradition for us here at UPLIFT, to actually start our sessions with just going within and sharing from the heart? Thank you, Anand.
Let us take this moment and turn our attention to that inner space. Let these senses of perception turn inward. Pay attention to the breath and let the breath guide you to that profound field of stillness. Realize that this field of stillness is underlying all phenomena, all activity is only on the surface of this profound field of stillness, and it is always here, always accessible to each and every one of us. Let the flow of attention be in the direction of this field of stillness, this field of silence. Allowing yourself to rest in this dimension. You don't need to create this dimension. It exists on its own here and now. You don't need to struggle for this. It is here and now. Give yourself the permission in this moment to rest in this space of silence, this space of stillness, this space of peace. And as we begin this session together, let us maintain our awareness on both dimensions. This dimension of profound stillness, unmoving, undisturbed, and then also make our awareness available to the relative so that we may be able to bring and infuse our relative reality with this value of profound peace, profound silence. Let us take a deep breath in. Hold the breath and slowly exhale. Once again, let's take a deep breath in. Hold the breath, stay within, and exhale. And one last time, let us inhale deeply. Hold, stay with that stillness, and slowly exhale and come into the space. Om. Let us remain in this space of peace where we are all united, all boundaries cease to exist. And slowly bring your senses into the relative as you open your eyes. See if you can remain established in that field of silence and see and experience from that dimension within you. Welcome everybody. And thank you so much for being.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Anandji. What a wonderful way to start our journey from inner peace to outer peace. Yeah, just resting in that field for a second is just a minute is so beautiful. So we're going to start our session today with the first question. And the question is, which I'll be asking each of you to just share a little bit, is the word peace means different things to different people. For some people, peace is like the absence of war. And for other people, peace has a deeply spiritual significance. I'd like you all to share just a little bit from your own words what peace means to you. Bhavani, would you like to start?
Namaste to everyone. Namaste, which means the divine within me bows to the divine within you. May we all see the divine within each other. I actually don't really think that we all experience peace differently. I feel that peace is such a profound truth of who we really are. It's the essence of our being. And it's always available. As Anandji was saying, it's already been created. We don't have to do anything except just stop making noise. Just come to the quietness within us. Peace is always here. It's our choice. We just are busy choosing so many other things that if we just stop for a moment, peace is our true nature. That's how I would love to share the experience of peace, because it is available to each and every one of us, always, always. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhavani. Bruce.
Thank you, Chris. I really want to thank everybody out there, our seekers, people looking for the world that we're all talking about, peace. And again, as you mentioned, peace is a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But in my perception as a biologist, peace is harmony, harmony within the system, sort of like music. That now I love rock music, but that's not the one I'm talking about. Swing, nice music, a springtime balmy breeze, a feeling that calmness is in the system. This is an inner peace for me where there's just a joy and not being distracted by the things that would take me out of harmony with the world at that time. So it's something that we can generate, and we can generate inside, which is really cool because we don't have to wait for the outside to manifest peace. We can do it. Experience it outwards, as I presume we'll be talking about.
A little freeze from Bruce.
Oh, did I get cut off?
No, you're back now, Bruce.
Oh, okay. I mean, I'm sorry about that. I'm living under situations that are not that peaceful on the outside, but I'm still maintaining it in here. That the conditions are outside or out of control necessarily, but it doesn't mean that it takes my conditions on the inside and puts them out of control. I can live here and smile even when I'm frozen. Yeah, I'm still here and I'm still living in that music, the joy, the harmony of everything working together like a fine-tuned orchestra.
Thank you, Bruce. Jyoti Ma.
Oh, welcome everybody. What a wonderful idea just for us to sit around the fire here. I always like to see a fire in the middle of everything. That gives me peace. The fire of our spirit, the fire of our lives, the fire of our love that's all lit up here. And we get to sit around and share with each other what we receive. When you ask this question, what is peace? For me, peace is a state of consciousness. It's a fully embodied state of consciousness when we can sit down in a present moment and fully embrace the present moment and fully in that present moment allow our full presence to be embodied, to fill up our skin, if you will. And when that moment occurs, our mind falls down into our heart and it's no longer moving and talking and chattering and babbling. The chitta quiets itself. Because when our head is in our heart, then there's an intelligence that we access, that starts to flow out into our very presence and inform us of the present moment we're in. We can tell when we're not in that moment when our mind jumps up and it wants to run ahead and see what's coming next. And when we do that, then all of a sudden our ego and our mind, they're all involved in that moment and we're taken out of the present moment. We're taken out of that moment of peace. Or if our mind starts to connect and runs and looks behind us, then we may have regret. And then we pull regret into the present moment, and that may bring a disharmony that pulls us out of peace. So if we can truly, truly sit down in the present moment and breathe into that space and let it breathe us, then we're fully present and peace is in us and we are peace. We're no longer, it's not something we reach for or try to bring into. It's something we embody and we are. And that's really what the world's got us challenged to do right now. And what the Mother Earth and my elders teach me is if I can stay in that present moment and trust that the Mother will bring us exactly what I need in the present moment for my own growth and for the steps she's taking me on, then I will embrace it. It will inform, it will become integrated and part of that present moment. And then she takes me to the next moment. And when we walk with that kind of rhythm, we start to walk with the rhythm of the Mother Earth, and we walk with her direction. And that which is above and that which is below embraces and carries us. And for me, that brings me peace.
Thank you, Jyoti. Anand, would you like to share?
As all our great presenters spoke already, peace is the fundamental nature of being. From the yogic perspective, the nature of self is Sat Chit Ananda, unbounded consciousness from which everything emerges. It is self-referral bliss. It is the fundamental source of all creative intelligence. And that is what peace is. At this dimension of self is where peace lives. And we have to, in the relative reality, the game begins. Then we get to really bring our present moment experience in touch with this dimension of our own self. And then in the relative reality, that's the great test where peace takes on different values. As we practice it, then peace becomes a commitment. But peace can only become a commitment when it is a part of our experience in the underlying fundamental level of reality. Then we get to practice peace, which can look like surrender, which can look like appreciation, which can look like peace, patience, which can look like gratefulness, which can look like innocence. Peace can take on so many values in the relative reality, because relative reality is field of diversity. In the absolute, at the level of peace, there is no boundaries. In the relative, peace flows through different channels. It's like love, you know. It has different fragrance, but underlying source is that colorless sap. So that's what peace is for me. And I'm very grateful that this conversation is a direct living example of what we are speaking of. So it's just a beautiful thing, you see. We are speaking of what we are practicing right now.
Thank you, Anand. So beautifully said. Kristin, would you like to share?
Well, I love what has been shared so far. I love how Bruce was saying that peace is a harmony. I often think of things also in musical terms, being a musician, and I feel like peace has a frequency, as Anand was sharing, a fundamental note. And on personal levels, when we tune into that foundation, when we tune into that fundamental note, we can choose to embody peace, which is our choice. It is our birthright. Every single being has that option at any time to tune back to that fundamental frequency. And then in music, there's octaves. So each octave is related to the lower octave, but the frequency becomes higher. And so this might be the fundamental note. I have a piano in front of me, and this might be the personal level of peace, but then suddenly enough people reach the personal level and you hear the community level, and then you hear the state level and the country level and then the world level. And so I think it's a yes and when we each choose to practice tuning into peace on personal levels, that resonance becomes eventually so profound that it can be and manifest into an absence of war, something as huge and as unbelievable as that might seem. If we practice, this is definitely possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristin. That was so beautifully shared. I love the musicality of that. Awesome. So once again, I just want to invite the global audience. So if you're feeling inspired, please share a question. You can send one by Facebook, and we're going to be sharing questions live today from the world. And we have a question. The first question that just came in is from Joanne from San Francisco, USA. And she says, I'm just going to read it out. The world is in such chaos. We have COVID, raging fires, people stockpiling weapons in the USA preparing for a possible civil war. I am feeling so much fear and concern every day. How does a person maintain a sense of peace in the face of so much global collapse? I'd like to hear from Bruce. You want to start that one?
And let me know if I drop out. Raise your finger, Chris, so I could stop and not get lost there, okay? Just in case. The first thing is this. Yeah, I could look around the world and I can make a list of so many symptoms of things that are going wrong. And if I focus on all those symptoms, I'll never have a bright day again in my life. But if you understand why the symptoms are occurring, then you understand there's some light at the end of the tunnel. Something is happening here. And basically I'm going to talk from a scientific point of view, is that human civilization has precipitated what's called a mass extinction, which includes civilization. And it's not 1,000 years from now, it's within the century, within decades, that human civilization is going to fight for its survival at this moment. I say, so why is that important? Because this onset also leads to an evolution. When you hit the wall and you can't do this anymore, it turns out because human civilization is precipitating this with the way we behave, how we treat each other and how we treat the planet has precipitated this. And if civilization is being asked by Mother Nature, or actually being told by Mother Nature, that we have to change the way we're living on this planet. So it means all the symptoms you're looking at are revealing that we are facing a bigger crisis, but that crisis is that we must stop what we're doing the way we're doing it and look at life in a different way and community in a different way and come back to learn how to be in harmony, peace with nature and all the other animals and plants and the other people, because we lost this. We lost this in a Darwinian vision of life as a struggle, and life is based on competition, and survival is based on how much you can get versus the other person. That's not evolution. Evolution, we now know, is cooperation. And so this is a call from Mother Earth. So I look at it and say, yeah, I see all these symptoms, and I don't want to get caught in the symptoms, because I'd rather move my energy into what we can do and build to move on to the future. And that's generating new communities like we've been generating with Global Days of Unity, bringing people back together. All of us are cells in a bigger organism called humanity. Unfortunately, if you look at the cells, you'll see that we're fighting an autoimmune disease, self-destruction. And so basically the whole point is this. You can look at it, you can get involved with it, or you can say, look, I know this is going on, but while that's going on, I know that I can put my energy and my consciousness into building the sustainable, peaceful world. And if you keep your consciousness there, that's where you're going to find peace. If you hold on to the other one, it's drama every day. So look there is a bright side. We will be evolving into a higher level of organization, a higher evolution, and it's going to be beautiful.
I'd like to jump on right there because I've walked with our original peoples across the planet now for 35, 40 years. And what the teachings are is the prophecies that they carry. Because in the original times, the earth herself gave these prophecies to our original people, gave them protocols to tell us how to walk on this planet and to keep a sustainable, beautiful garden of life flourishing with its diversity. And they also bring that unbroken line from that original time, because they come with a resilience in themselves and a courage in their heart. And they brought that unbroken line all the way up into this very moment so they could be here now with us. Prophecies that they carry informed us this was coming. It's been seen all the time. The Mother Earth shared her plan of how the evolution, as what you're saying, Bruce, would move itself through time and bring us into new presence of ourselves, new awareness of our being. Now those prophecies are informing us how to hold these times we're in. Some of you have heard me share about what the Kogi have said. The Kogi are from the 4 original people of the La Sierra Nevada in Colombia. And what they told us several years ago to myself and our community, because we walk very closely with them, they said we are in the place of time where ending is falling into the beginning. And the beginning will roll out in 2026. Now, that's not very far from now. And they told us this in 2013 because we would be in a purification process for 13 years. So we're about middle way. When we roll out, when the beginning starts to move itself forward, it will move forward with those individuals and organizations and movements that are based on original principle of heart, reciprocity, collaboration, unity, and all life is sacred. They said it was important to pay attention to the ending so we stay informed, but to stay focused on that which is breaking through. And so all of my energy right now is really watching what is breaking through, participating and collaborating with those other individuals and organizations like Global Days of Unity here, and many more that are out there listening. You're part of this story. You came from the original times 2. Our lines all moved up and we're all standing here now. A couple of days ago in my prayer, I really heard this voice that was saying, give gratitude for the courageous ones that chose to put their skin on so they could be here now and help carry that which is breaking through. The instruction of our indigenous people do not see this as something that went wrong. They see this as the end of a cycle. When I was traveling and working with my teacher who named me over in India, I was on pilgrimages and I would go into many different ashrams and temples, and on many of their walls there would be a clock. And on this clock from 12 to 1 would be 2,500 years. 1 to 2 would be another 2,500. And so it would go all the way around for 26,000 years. And at the very end of that period of time was the Kali Yuga, the dark time, the time of the ending. We're in it. It was moving us from that cycle into the next cycle of 26,000 years. And so we've come here now and put our skin on so that we can participate in the making. And that's something to celebrate and be full of excitement about, really. And that may sound just a bit crazy to some, with everything falling down and spinning like, nothing makes any sense. Everything is like shaking, huh? But one of the things that I was told, and I'll end with this, a few years ago, the mother said to me, you are entering the valley of shadow and mirror. Those mirrors that are full of shadow, they have our own story cooked up inside, and they can't see anything outside of that. Other shadowy worlds can bump into them. They can't even see. All they can see is what's inside the shadowy mirror. She said, it is important as you walk through this valley that you carry the mirror where only my reflection can be seen. That divine reflection can be seen. That's the one that is not smoky. That's the one that gives us clear vision. And if you want to test that, go outside and look into nature and see the face of yourself in that nature, in that tall, standing redwood tree, in the flower that's a blossoming or the water that's running. See your face in that mirror, that reflection of the divine. Look high in the sky and watch the sun as it's rising and filling the sky with the beauty and the colors of this creation. And look and see yourself in that reflection. It is the divine. It is you. Then take a moment and look into your relative's eyes and see your reflection there. And that is divine, and that is you.
Who would like to go next with that question?
Well, I'll just speak briefly to it. You see, as speaking about evolution, I think that's the nature's command. Nature's command is evolve or perish. You know, in the relative field of reality, the only constant is time, and time is change. So at any given moment, either we are leaning in the direction of progressive change or we are resisting progressive change. That resistance of progressive change is what destruction looks like. As Bruce was talking about that autoimmune disorder, where we become designers of our own destruction. But the great invitation of any movement is to discover that underlying field of peace and to realize that in the relative field there is always going to be two values, things which I can directly influence and things which I have to surrender. And the things which I can directly influence, I can take progressive action right now about it. And as long as I consistently do that and I keep enough space, enough time, enough attention for that experience of inner peace to inform my relative action, then I become one of the bringers of this evolutionary change. And the resistance is always the greatest when there is a big change about to occur. It's just like about waking up early in the morning, you see. Like I was up here at 4 to be part of this call. So, you know, just about waking up when you're sleeping at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, deep sleep, there is no resistance. It's when you're about to wake up, your body starts to resist that, even though you wake up every day, but still there is that resistance. So I think the resistance is always the strongest when there is a big change about to occur. So there is this great space to hold that enthusiasm within our heart with simultaneous compassion of realizing the pain that is there, you see. And that's the play of relative reality. The pain and joy coexist simultaneously. For all the things that we are hearing which is wrong in the world, there is so much which is magnificent, as Jyoti Ma was beautifully speaking, just the light of the sun and the flapping of the butterfly and the random acts of kindness that human beings every day do, which do not get any newspaper headline. You see, we are phenomenally kind, actually. If you go down the street, you see human beings who are actually interested in being nice, because that's what everybody wants, you see. So it's an exciting time. Yes, there is resistance, but that resistance is always because there is a big evolutionary leap about to occur. So let us lean in that direction, address what we can change, and surrender what we can't.
Shall we
I'd
move
love
on?
to share. Oh,
Please. No, yes,
okay.
thank you.
I was just feeling as whenever we're taking evolutionary leaps in our personal lives or as a collective, fear definitely comes up, and that is natural. And it's okay to be present to your fears. And I think rejecting our fears is also something to be aware of. It's important to be present to our fears and recognize that fears are also intoxicating. So there's one level of being present to our fears and just navigating them on a daily basis. And then there is a next level of the intoxication of fear. And I would say, just like we talk about voting with our money in life or voting with our energy, we can choose to vote with our peace and vote with our commitment to personal peace. So let's say we're trying to lose weight and we are at a party and there are lots of cookies on the table, which would be, cookies would be equal to all of the fear that's present when we turn on Facebook or the news or whatnot every day. And then there's this plate of beautiful, beautiful, vibrant vegetables, which is peace. And I would say, yes, acknowledge that you have that craving sometimes for the cookies. You want to reach for the cookie, but what does it feel like to practice reaching for that carrot, that beautiful sense of peace, and bringing it into your body, your mind, your spirit on a daily basis? What is that? Can we start to choose that? And as we really step into that space every single day, then I think the fears will dissipate on a collective level. Thank you.
Bhavani, would you like to add something to this last discussion? Or?
Sure.
I know that you're in USA as well, which is where
Yes.
this came from, which is quite a lot going on there at the moment.
Well, I mean, the only place anything goes on is in our experience, is within us. And I think that I would just carry on with what everyone has shared, in the sense that that fear itself is can be extended into all of these things. We can be fearful of a spider or a snake or people amassing weapons or vaccines or COVID, or we can, if we're going to get into fear, there's that whole dessert table that Kristin was talking about. And it's not about trying to resist one by one. It's actually recognizing that, as Kristin also said, it's a choice, and we can choose peace. And just like Anandji was saying in the beginning, that peace can look like innocence or gratitude or forgiveness or compassion or joy or music. Peace also has so many expressions that if we actually say, we want peace, I want peace, I want to bring more peace into my world, into my life, into my experience, then I actually have that choice. I have that power within me. I have that divine right within me, and I can choose it, and I can choose to express it in a variety of ways. And it's up to us to simply make that choice.
So beautifully said. Thank you so much. Well, we'll move on to the next question. Let me just bring it up. We just got one in. So this question is from Audra from Chicago, USA. She says, how do I not react and stay calm inside if I'm forced to do something I'm absolutely against? For example, mandatory vaccines. Whenever I can, I work around the system. For example, I pulled my son out of school this year for homeschooling. But if vaccines are mandatory, how do I keep calm? Just to accept and not change? So that's an interesting question.
Well, it's a very important question. It's a very important question because we are facing times where we might be put, as suggested, into situations where we seem to have no control and have to conform to these things. The first thing is, you know, if it comes to like the mandatory vaccination, I sure as heck will try everything I can possibly do in the world not to be there and get there. But then I have to also go to this. I am creating my life. Now, spiritual people have been saying that for thousands of years, but it is much more relevant to me as a scientist because, hey, I wasn't a spiritual person for years until I understood the nature of how cells work. But scientists have come to an understanding that it's been so difficult for people to accept, and yet it's the absolute truth. And the science I'm talking about is quantum physics. Now, quantum physics came in 1927 to dispel the notion that our universe is made out of matter and energy, two different things that don't interact very well. That was Newtonian. Quantum physics came in and said, no, the illusion is matter because everything is energy. And so, yes, this is an illusion, and that's very hard. That's why I give the lecture and I talk about the physics, and they go, "Oh yeah, you know, like take notes. Yeah, that's what he said." And then you walk out the door, and then you're back in your real world again. And yet, there's a point where even I had to stop because I was reading the physics, getting into the physics. At some point, it's like, yeah, but, and then I said, if it's true, then I really have to learn to live in harmony with that scientific truth. And the relevance to me is this, is that quantum physics is the most valid science on the planet. There is no science with more truth in it than quantum physics. And the understanding of quantum physics is that the universe is immaterial, it's mental and spiritual. And I say, why is it relevant? From day one, quantum physics, 1927, Max Planck, one of the founders of it, says mind is the matrix of all matter. And there are a whole series of famous physicists that really say, as quantum physics says, that consciousness is creating our experiences. And therefore, you have to really be aware of your consciousness, because you will manifest the expression of that consciousness. You can manifest a love consciousness, but you can just as easily manifest a fear consciousness. And all of a sudden it says, we are involved. We are creators. We've been told we've been co-creators from the most indigenous people on this planet for thousands of years, to walk in harmony with our creation. And so the idea is this: if you let the fear override your consciousness, then recognize this: you are broadcasting to the field a consciousness that quantum physics calls a field. That I'll give a very important one quote, Albert Einstein, very simple: the field is the sole governing agency of the particle. Field is invisible forces. Particle is our illusion of matter. Conclusion of physics, it's the field that's giving shape to this matter. And we generate fields with consciousness. And the last thing, just to bring it back into the world, is this: we think that our consciousness is in our head only, and we put wires on our head and we read it with electroencephalograph, EEG. I'm reading your brain activity with these wires. A new device called magnetoencephalograph, MEG, reads brain activity, but the probe is out here. That's the most important fact. Your thoughts are not contained in your head. You are broadcasting. Are you broadcasting harmony, or are you broadcasting disharmony? Because what's going to move in your world is whatever resonates with one or the other. If you're in fear, you're going to bring things that are fearful into your life. If you operate with love, then you'll be surrounded by love. If I'm in a situation and I can't control it, I really have to go back to this and say, I will control this with my consciousness, because I'm powerful co-creator. And this is the thing that we've left out, because we perceive ourselves to be victims. And physics since 1927 says, no, you are a co-creator. And if we understand this, then we can take the power back. And so if we get forced in a situation, I mean really forced in a situation where you have no choice, then the idea is to change consciousness as best you possibly can to avoid that negative fear, because that is ultimately what will manifest. And so it sounds easy. I just said that, but it was a practice for me because I never believed in it in the first place. And so the simple reality is, now that I have, I can live through all of this stuff because it's not coming into my head. I'm broadcasting a community, and look at the panelists that I'm involved with here. That's not an accident in my life. These people are in the harmony and the consciousness that I'm talking about, of offering love and peace. And it's real. And I have to say that because I didn't believe in it, but for the last 20 some years, I've had the most wonderful life experiences in spite of what's going on in the world at this moment. So my message is clearly this: consciousness is shaping this reality. If you focus on the fear consciousness, then by definition, that will resonate with whatever causes fear. But when we start to resonate on love consciousness, that we bring in a different harmony and vitality into our lives. and we are powerful. So it takes a little bit of effort, but that is the fact of science.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you.
What's jumping up for me, Chris, is something Terence Mckenna. Some people may know Terence Mckenna. He's not with us anymore. He's with the ancestors. But when we were getting ready to come to what people were calling in the West the end of the Mayan calendar, which was our misunderstanding about all that, but a lot of people were afraid that we were coming to the end of time. So Terence went and he sat with the mushroom people, and he asked the mushroom people, "Are we coming to the end of time?" And the mushroom people said to him, "Well, you're coming to the end of time, but you're coming to the end of time as you know it." He said you're entering into a space, is what they told him, where you must remember that the universe runs with parallel realities. And that right now, and this was some 30, long time ago, right? 30 years ago almost, when this came to him. And right now, as you're entering this time, then you've really got to look at what stream you want to be in. If you put all of your consciousness into working for peace and living in harmony with the planet and caring for each other as all life is sacred, there you are. Or you can be in the stream where you are really fighting for the right and you're into the wars and aggression is part of your reality. Or you can be in the stream where the angels fly and miracles happen and magic is alive. Or you can be in the stream where self-doubt overwhelms you and your confusion, it reigns. Right now, they said, take care of yourself, clean your mind, so you will know what you are starting to put in your stream, because in the moment when time changes, and it'll happen that quick, they said, you will drop into the stream you've been putting all of your concentration, you've been putting your mind, you've been putting your heart. It's been calling you as much as you've been calling it. So, don't know, but it gave me a very interesting thought to put inside of myself. And I have concentrated on my stream. So I hope that you will too, and know that you're making a choice. Nobody pushes you into your stream. The universe can be very patient for your evolution. It is a moment in time here that is so poignant that we must pay attention to the choice of our stream. Thank you.
Thank you, Jyoti Ma.
It's beautiful to hear the parallels when Bruce was speaking about from the scientific perspective. From the yogic perspective, the only thing that exists is infinity, or all finite expressions of this mind-body complex are mere events within that field of infinity. And within the relative reality, within yoga, we speak of the two fundamental natures called Shiva and Shakti. Shiva being the pure field of consciousness, and Shakti being the pulsation of that consciousness, which is the field of energy. And Shiva is infinite, and so is Shakti. The consciousness is infinite, and the energy is infinite. And who we are, this sense of self, is nothing more than a modification of that infinity. So the fundamental nature of the power that underlies us is infinite. So all this feeling of helplessness is learned. All helplessness is learned helplessness. It's not fundamental to who we are. It's misunderstanding, is miseducation. That's what Buddha's fundamental teaching was, that the cause of suffering is ignorance, avidya. Avidya sounds the same as vidya in Sanskrit. Vidya means wisdom. Avidya, not wisdom. But when it rises up within the field of our mind, it sounds true. And that is why we must question our assumptions, we must question these fears. And so we must question this sense of helplessness, which has been nothing but a conditioning, which is an incorrect knowledge. And so we should claim our infinity, we should claim our power, and resist the temptation to fall into the anticipation of wrong, anticipation of fear, anticipation of what can go wrong, but rather look at what is here, address the need of the hour, while fundamentally owning that infinite power that you are, correcting your intellect from falling into the trap of this misidentification as this helpless entity, or as Bruce was also speaking of, Jyoti Ma was speaking of this victimized self, and start feeding that lower self, which starts to then enter this kind of a reality where we are the victim, we are the helpless. And wherever there is a victim, there is going to be a devil. And that's what the drama triangle is. And so as we claim our infinite power, and we can begin to address the fundamental need of the hour and resist the temptation to fall into the anticipation of what can go wrong, then what is at any given point actually occurring is the field of love expressing itself. And there is no external power which can ultimately change you, because there is ultimately nothing outside. That's the fundamental fact. Your life is within your consciousness field. There is an illusion where we see within and without, and that's a functional distinction we make. But at the fundamental level of experience, there is nothing outside of your field of consciousness. That's the fundamental truth. And when we grasp that, there is incredible liberation. We are liberated from the other. There is no such thing as the other who has the right over your life. In the field of drama, it all plays out, but it's not really the truth ever. And when we can get that, that's the beginning of what we call nirvana, moksha, self-realization. So I invite you all to really look at, irrespective of whatever is occurring, every event is an invitation for you to know yourself more. Every event is an invitation to get to know who you truly are, because the truth of who you are is going to set you free. Thank you.
Thank you, Anand. Would anyone else like to carry on, or shall we move on to the next question?
I'd just like to say something very simple. That was so profound, Anand. Wow, I'm feeling that so deeply. I was thinking that whenever we are experiencing fear, we are usually thinking in future tense. Fear lives in the future. It lives in the what if. What may happen. We are creative beings, and that is so beautiful, but we're also very creative when it comes to envisioning what could go wrong and how fear could play out. So when I get into that space, which I know I've been there so many times, and it helps me a lot to just ground and breathe and look back at my life thus far. And when I look back, I realize, oh, there has been all kinds of experiences, from total bliss and joy and creativity to very challenging, painful, dark experiences. But when I look back, I realize I have been able to be present to every moment as it has come up. And I have had what I needed to get me through and be present to each and every situation of life. And when I just immediately feel my whole field ground when I realize I have always had what it takes to make it through every moment. And then as I think about life now and all of the possible fears, just be quiet inside and tell yourself, I have the capacity within my infinite being to navigate any moment that I will need to go through in this existence. Anything that comes to me, no matter how difficult, I will be present to it. I will figure it out. And for me, this helps so much, just to get out of the future, get into the present, and trust that I am, like Bruce was saying, a co-creative being in this experience, in this conscious experience. I am not helpless. I have what it takes to navigate, and I can create a beautiful, positive outcome even out of the darkness. I wore this tonight, and I love this, the symbolism. These white roses, they're coming through the darkness. We have what it takes within us to feel peace, to identify that inner space of the rose, and let ourselves blossom through even the darkest night. So thank you.
Thank you, Kristin. Okay. We have a guest who has joined us, who's actually in the chat room with us right now, Calvin. We'd like to introduce Calvin. Hold 1 second. You have to unmute.
Hello. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Calvin. Welcome. Where are you from?
I'm from New Jersey.
You're from New Jersey.
New Jersey in USA.
Welcome. Welcome. And
Thank you. Thank you for letting me be a part of this esteemed panel.
Well, it's so beautiful to have, you join us and to have someone from our global community come in and be with us. And what would you like to, what's your question that you'd like to ask?
I can't imagine that my question could have come at a better time on the backs of what Jyoti and Anand and Kristin said, because I know Kristin and my heart always goes out to her. I'm an addiction physician, and in human psychology, when a person makes a meaningful commitment to something, who they are, where they came from, comes up to block their commitment. And it looks like turmoil and confusion and resistance and all the drama. Given the drama in the world, I have to look, and Kristin just described how behind all of that drama is a commitment. And I think Kristin just described her commitment in life and how it's kept her going. What do you think is the true commitment behind all this world turmoil? What main structures from humanity's past have to be transformed?
Thank you, Calvin.
Well, I'll jump in because I just came off of a 2-hour prayer offering with the Mother Earth delegation of United Indigenous Nations. And we're in a moment of truth telling. We really got to be honest about what's happening so we can get to that level of commitment inside of ourselves. And what they speak about is when the colonization, the disease of colonization started to move across these lands. When we began to, when that began to move across the lands, it started to oppress nature. It started to oppress individuals and the spirit within individuals. It started to dictate what we needed to do to conform to that system. It took us away from nature's system. And so there was coding that was put into our Western systems right now that literally kept us in the box and kept us asleep, unaware that this was beginning to grow itself in really big ways and was beginning to get aggressive to those original peoples that understood the wisdom of that original system, nature's wisdom and system, and the protocols that create that system of reciprocity where life gives to itself so it can make more life. That's what they say. So what we're in right now is really to look at this system, the ending that's falling down, because that's that system that's falling down. And that's why the instruction of our prophecies and our elders tell us right now that the most important thing we can do is pay attention to that and put our focus on that which is breaking through, which is taking us into this next ascended doorway of our evolution and the Earth's evolution as well. It is she who is transforming and moving. We are on her skin, moving with her. That's what the elders talk about. So it's that original system that is instructing us right now. So if we can turn our focus to Mother Earth and the way she's calling us, and really, really, we got to really call in that firm focus and commitment, huh? Because if not, you'll be so distracted to all the things that are falling down and falling apart. Now, the Hopi told us many, many years ago, they started preparing us for this. They said we were coming to a crossroads, and one road would be led by those, and they had it in their petroglyphs, with the body and the head disconnected. They said that would be the road to destruction. This other road that was a choice, seen in the petroglyphs, is where the head and the body came together, for the head followed the heart and the intelligence of the heart again, because that intelligence is what is flowed into every molecule of this creation. And that's the true system that we're restoring and returning to right now. So that's the reason we have to come to some truth telling, because if not, we'll try to put ourselves back in the box when Mother Nature's pushing us out. I heard this amazing, beautiful woman, she was Jewish, right after all of this big moment happened with racial cleansing across the planet. So we had to have a truth-telling moment there too. And this beautiful young woman was talking and telling her story. And at the end of her of this very inspired speech, what she said in her wisdom, which made everybody stand up, and I did too. What if this darkness that we're in is not all about suffering? What if this darkness is the womb of life and it's about to push us out? That will take some labor, but that will bring our birth. Just a thought.
Beautiful, Jyoti Ma.
I think to address the fundamental commitment from the yogic perspective of all human, when consciousness expresses at that level of what we call human being, for all we have on the planet are species of consciousness. And at that level of human structure where consciousness reaches a certain level of complexity, and the law of nature goes, the greater the complexity, the greater the capacity. And so at this level, we have as a species have great capacity on both directions. Both directions of the spectrum, where we can wreak greatest havoc, and we can also create incredible beauty and harmony. And so at the underlying commitment of all finite incarnation is to gain infinity back, is this search for meaning, search for purpose. So the underlying commitment of Atman, that is the individualized expression of infinity from the yogic perspective, is to gain Brahman, to understand who it is and why it is and what it is. And that is what we call moving in the direction of wisdom, Vidya. And when we move in the direction of Vidya, we are naturally confronted with Avidya. So all of our unresolved issues, all the conditioning, all the, as I said, the incorrect knowledge which has been stored up into our nervous systems and which travels within space-time, shows up. But it shows up only as an invitation, to move through it, to come to that greater understanding of who we are. The fundamental ignorance, the fundamental flaw of understanding is the nature of self from the yogic perspective. That is the first sutra in the Yoga Sutra. After introducing the whole problem, Patanjali speaks of tada drashta sarupe vasthanam. Then the seer sees truly who she or he is. And in that seeing, there is liberation. In that seeing. So the underlying commitment to every human incarnation is to realize who we are And that has been the fundamental questions to ourselves. That are the questions that driven our civilization, whether we call the creation of religion to economic systems, about meaning and value, and fundamentally what we are doing here and what is the purpose of it all. So the primary purpose, what we call dharma, that is the commitment of self, is to realize self. And all the opposition and the turmoil that we experience is a reflection up to the degree where we have not realized the truth of who we are, where we have not realized the fundamental sacredness of our existence, the fundamental boundlessness of our consciousness. And irrespective of what time we are in, I'll close with this one of the beautiful expressions in the Upanishad. The student asks, the Upanishads are presented as question and answer. The student asks the master, why is there anything at all? If there is suffering in the world, why is there the world in the first place? And the master says, because there is bliss. The absolute's nature is bliss, and the nature of bliss is to create. That's the word acronym G, which becomes the generator. The nature of consciousness is to create. Consciousness cannot not create. And in that relative reality, there is always duality. So wherever there is going to be joy, there is going to be suffering. There is going to be that duality. Yes? So in the beautiful line, it says the pain or the challenges, the suffering, that is the price the infinite pays to play finite. And it transcends the suffering and relative reality to the degree it realizes its own infinite nature and yet plays finite. Thank you.
Thank you, Anand. Would anyone else like to share some thoughts on that question that Calvin had?
Again, I just like to add to what we've already heard, because all of this is still coming. Are we? What is self in all of this? Who are we? What is self in all of this? And this is something I had to learn myself, because you have to recognize we've been programmed as a civilization to believe that life is a competition, which really emphasizes the individual. And that fullest competition has led today to what, 1% of the population owning all the wealth equal to what the 99% have. And that is a Darwinian experience. Get what you can, whatever the cost of it is. There's no rules in Darwin theory. It just says whoever's the winner at the end wins. And the problem with that is we now know from new evolution studies that it's not based on the individual. Evolution is based on the community. It's the community that has to come together and recognize its wholeness, and we ourselves within a community, and we're not separate from that community. And when we break ourselves apart, we lose everything. And the value of community, I always remember this one story about horses. And that is when a pony, a young horse, is misbehaving, the parents will sort of nip at it to say, don't do this, try to correct it. But if the horse doesn't respond, then the pony is excluded from the community. And that is the ultimate penalty that animal can have. When they're excluded, the first and required thing is to come back into community. And so it's basically recognizing a lower form of life. It's not the individual, it's the community that we're working for. And we've been fractured. The planet is fractured in politics and countries and race and religion and everywhere we go. And yet we really have to come to the unity. We are one. We're all one. And that's when the harmony is recognized, then the garden is back, because the garden is the total absolute height of community. A garden is not a battleground. A garden is a community. And this is our lesson, since we've destroyed the garden. To bring it back, we're the ones that really have to first come into unity about it.
Thank you, Bruce.
I'd like to offer a 2-minute sung response, if that feels okay. As Jyoti was speaking, I started hearing this, and I knew it wanted to be shared. This is called Any Road. Any road you take will lead you back to you. You can try to run away, but there's no running from your truth. So open up that door and walk right through. Into light that always lives where you do. Into light that always lives where you do.
Thank you so much, Kristin. Calvin, it was so wonderful to have you join us. Thank you. And we'll please join us every month with the Global Days of Unity, and we'd love to you to join our community and sign up. And thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you so much. It's been lovely. Thank you, Kristin.
Love you, Calvin.
Okay. Wow, this is a beautiful space to have our wonderful community join us. And we have another question here from Leanne Medina. This question just came in on Facebook. If a person is sick, is that person creating their sickness, or can they be processing the sickness of the world or even the sickness of their families through them for healing? Very interesting question. Who would like to start? Bhavani, would you like to start with this one?
Well, first of all, Kristin, that was just beautiful. Thank you so much. And I'm just also, thank you. It's just beautiful. And to everyone who has spoken and shared, it's so beautiful. Yeah, to be with everybody here. I think that there is a confusion around healing and what is true healing. And, you know, we're so creative with our minds. We can attribute almost anything to almost anything and make a case that it's true or that it's not true. You know, what we believe is what we perceive, and it's actually what we project, and then we believe that it's true. So it becomes like a cycle, and it's we believe, and then we project, and we perceive what we project, but we don't understand that what we're projecting is what we've already pre-believed. So basically, my fundamental commitment, as we were talking about, is to be present in the peace of this moment and allow the truth to reveal itself in that moment. And it's so easy to make up all kinds of intellectual understandings, and understanding itself is limited because it's always selective and based on very limited amount of selected information that is either believed or not believed. And you see it becomes this cycle. So I have been with, I have held and been with many people who have died. I have been at many births. I've birthed children myself. I have seen this whole cycle of life. And my dear beloved teacher, Papaji, H.W.L. Punjaji, told us a story about when he was in Delhi with staying with a family. And in India, you know, the family is quite extended. It goes from the babies to the great grandparents, and they were all having breakfast together. And the eldest man in the family, the grandfather, they were all having oatmeal. The grandfather was eating his oatmeal, and he put his spoon in the bowl, and as he started lifting the spoon to his mouth, he actually dropped dead, and his face just fell into the bowl. And he was very old, and it was, of course, shocking to everybody. And the family dealt with it. And later on, Papaji said, actually to my husband, Bharat, who was going to be on this panel but couldn't make it today, he said he didn't know. When he put his spoon in the bowl, he didn't know that he would be dead before it reached his mouth. He didn't know. And that's the truth, that we never know. The next breath is not for granted. And I feel like sometimes we ask questions that are irrelevant, and then we follow them because they're interesting, or we're just so used to it. It's a habit. But the question is, how can I bring my full being to this moment? How can I bring all the love that I am, all the peace that I am, all the joy that I am to this moment, to each person that I see? How can I live in a state of gratitude and awakened presence of being to honor the divinity in everything I see and everyone that is in my community and in my family, in my household, every living thing? So the question of healing is, for me, love. Love is the miracle, and love is healing. And the more love we bring into the world, the more we heal ourselves and each other, and return to the true nature of our being, which is pure, perfect love. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Bhavani. Beautiful words. Who else would like to share on that point? I think Anand is muted.
As Bhavani ji was speaking so beautifully about this, the power of the unknown, you know, that the unknown is always in the relative field far greater than the known. No matter what our educational background, no matter our biological age, no matter what placards we have on the wall, the unknown is always greater than the known in the relative reality. And that's an incredible understanding to have. For that, the only way, the only relationship that is going to serve us with the unknown is that of love. That's the only relationship that can serve any fundamental purpose, is that of love. And when we are looking at any of these experiences of disease, of illness, of conflict, the underlying thing there is just the experience. If we resist the temptation to label the experience and create a context around it, and we just let the experience be without labeling the experience, then we see that there is the experiencer is the experience. This distinction between the experience being isolated from the experiencer is only valid at a certain level of consciousness. But when that stress dissolves and we return to that place of resting in that profound field of peace where we started this, we see that there is two life at any moment. There is the experience, there is the experiencer, and both are an expression of consciousness. For consciousness is what gives experience. If there is no consciousness, there is no experience. Consciousness is in which the experience arises, and consciousness is through which the experience is known. So in any life and at any moment, there is the experience and there is the knowing of the experience, which are both expressions of pure consciousness. And the more we can learn to be with that, then any experience starts to take on a healing value. All experience is healing, because then life becomes this magnificent opportunity to really experience. That's ultimately what life is. From that first breath as in the spoon and the last breath, and that's our life. In that one inhalation and one exhalation, there is the hyphen in between. And in that hyphen there is, it seems so big, but we have lived, we just pay attention for a moment to our biological age, it really goes like that, it's like a cosmic sneeze, So I think it's important, this beauty of being with innocence and not resisting the temptation to labeling and creating a whole structure around our experience. Just seeing the experience from that place of innocence and realizing that the experiencer is the experience. When I was a kid growing up in Lakshman Jhula, I had this privilege of being with different yogis and going through, and as a kid you have this idea because there is still a lot of concepts you're learning. And so one of these things which I had was that the yogi was on a physical level would never get sick. And there was this Hariyatiji Maharaj, I went, he was about 84 years old, and I went with my guru to see him, and he was laying in bed and he could not move. And I had seen this man so full of vitality and full of, I was in awe of he was a big man. And then I saw, and I was moved to tears because I was very young, and I was moved by this incredible man, and because there was this memory of knowing him, and now he wasn't like that. So I asked my teacher, why is he sick? And he looked at me and he said, that's your experience of him. That's not his experience. And that stayed with me, and it grew, that seed that he planted, I was about 8, 9 years old, and just kept growing, that fundamental realization that the experiencer is the experience. And all meaning is generated by the experiencer. All meaning is generated by the experiencer. Whether it is labeling the experience as disease or labeling the experience as healing.
I'd like to add to that, Anand, because what you and Bhavani have both shared is building something here. And it reminds me of a question that I had many years ago, some 40 years ago probably now. And the question was, am I dreaming it, or is it dreaming me, and who really knows? And I went off to my path took my question. And my past started to teach me, took me along this way. So I went to the Jung Institute, where in Switzerland, I lived 3 years, where all the very, very big thinking people have brought so much in regards to our psychology, and Carl Jung and all of his teachings. And I had the same question, and I sat in front of some of these people and I shared the question, but none of the bells went off. That moment when you know. It rang, something rang inside your soul. You feel it reverberate through your soul. And I'm back. I lived in Texas for 1.5 years, and then I was brought to California. And I was sitting in my living room one day. I didn't have this question in my mind at all. You never know when the answers come. So I'm sitting in my living room, I'm meditating, I'm in deep meditation, and all of a sudden, I see my living room ceiling fills up with this huge, beautiful cosmic eye. And out of the eye is like the Milky Way pouring out with stars and sparkles. It's just beautiful. And her eye starts to look at me, and it starts to wink, just like a normal eye would. And every time she did, I fell a little deeper and a little deeper into this space of meditation. And all of a sudden, I heard her laugh, and she said, I'm dreaming you. And she was gone. And at that moment, I knew that when she woke up, I wouldn't be here anymore. Was a thought.
Thank you, Jyoti. Anyone else like to share on that question, or shall we move on? Okay. So here we have a question. Another one just came in from Facebook. It's from Ganzi Gitamodo from Canada. Does peace exist without chaos? I'm going to ask Bruce to start that one. And by the way, this is our last question because we're reaching towards the end of our.
Well, chaos is a movement that's going on, and chaos, we have to understand also, is not random. And that's unfortunate because most people think chaos, everything's just going crazy and it's random. Chaos is not random. Chaos has pattern to it. And so, yes, chaos is part of life because pattern is part of life. And that we understand this, and that the fear is when you see it, it's random, which means I have no idea what's going on, but there are things going on. There are things going on underneath our consciousness, and through our consciousness, it's unfolding. And when we look at it, it appears like it's totally random. And the simple, no, we are following a path. We're on a path. It's unfolding. And this unfolding is really the one that's pushing us to this new evolution right now. The chaos around us is really important for a very simple reason. How can we build a sustainable foundation on the structure that we have right now? Because the structure we have right now is what's causing the problem globally, that we're, all the symptoms that we talked about. The chaos about this is the falling down pattern that says, I cannot build on the old foundation. So we're clearing the ground, getting new ideas, all the things like Black Lives Matter, all the issues that we're bringing up that were under the surface, that were really not in harmony with where we're going, are now coming to the surface. Why? Because now it's necessary to build a new foundation, include all those things that we left out of humanity and put down there and decided not to talk about. This is why we're facing all of this. We're being asked to create a different resolution than we have. So the coming down to me and the chaos is not an accident at all. Matter of fact, it's fundamental, because I don't believe we could get to the destination we want if we don't have the chaos that we're experiencing right now. So I look at chaos, yeah, there's a plan under here. Let's just follow where we're going.
And when you do, Bruce, we end up putting on a new lens, and it's about looking at something as a whole system. When we only look at the chaos, then we don't see the whole system. If we back up just a little bit more and look at the whole system, we'll see that in the chaos, creativity is flourishing. Yeah. It reminds me of a Sufi dancer. When they swirl, they have one hand that they keep a focus on, and they swirl and move into divine presence through the swirl. Right now is a moment when we may need to swirl, that we are swirling. God's got us spinning. Can we keep our focus just on that divine presence, that hand, that place where, my Unchi, Beatrice Long Visitor, holy dance. She used to tell us, we all got different color skins, but when you turn your hands this way, we're all the same color. That's our whole system that shows out through the palms of our hands, the pattern of wholeness. And that's when we reach each other and touch each other through that sameness, even with our diversity. When we look through the lens of a whole system, it's like when you've got an issue or something that we're struggling with, if we stay focused on that, then we will miss the opportunity of the teaching that's happening in that moment. If we back up and look at the energy, and what is the energy of the system telling you, then it's going to inform you what that part is that feels like chaos. One of my dear friends wrote a book, Poised in Chaos. It's the path of a spiritual warrior for life.
Thank you. That was wonderful, that description, Jyoti. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jyoti. Who would like to?
I would just say, in musical terms, if you think about some of the greatest symphonies, and you hear in your mind one of your favorite pieces of music, usually you'll find that there are great points of dissonance where you feel notes colliding and creating, oh, that's that's a hard feeling to be with. And then suddenly they resolve into beautiful harmonies. And as we go through these levels of dissonance and then release and open into the harmonies, there is a feeling that occurs. I would say that it is an acknowledgement of peace, and also just an acknowledgement of who we are, our existence, our truth, that music is a code to express.
Mm-hmm.
It's the emotional code, the emotional language that is expressing the experience that we are seeing on the physical plane. So I often go to music, and when I think about this question of chaos and peace, can they exist together? I think they rely on each other to reveal the higher levels of what is possible, if that makes sense. Higher levels of peace are preceded by the reorganization of information, the growth, the new knowledge. And as it reorganizes, it can sound dissonant, but finally, oh, here we go. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Anand?
When we speak of order and chaos, it reminds me of the Yantra model in the Tantras. That what it speaks to is what in relative reality there is chaos only because there is order. So chaos is, what we perceive as chaos is just order at different scale. At we scale, the vision expands, then the mandala, which seems as disorder, as chaos, it starts to, as you dial out and expand your awareness, then the mandala starts to come into form. And as you dial in, at a certain level, the dissonance, the chaos increases, but you keep dialing in, and then you again reach at that level of order. So underlying at both levels is infinity. At that level of boundlessness, there is order. At relative reality, there is going to be duality. So there will be the relative experience of chaos and order together. And as we keep expanding, dialing out in the relative field, expanding our consciousness, that is really the invitation of these times and all times, is to expand our consciousness field. Then we start to see that underlying order, even though intellectually it might not be fully comprehended because intellect is limited in time. But at the level of being, we can be part of that order. We can be part of that mandala. Then we know our life and the life of this existence is an expression of that Sri Yantra, that pulsation of stillness. The universe creates from that profound stillness. And that stillness ultimately only as order, only at relative level there will be chaos. So I think each and every one of our lives, the life of this whole universe is a mandala, is the Sri Yantra. Yeah, that's the strongest yantra in the yogic tradition, is the Sri Yantra. Yeah, at the center, and this magnificent pattern that emerges as you dial out and see. I think it's a very helpful knowing for us to hold in our heart when the chaos, the perception of chaos is dominating our field of awareness. Thank you.
Thank you, Anand.
Thank you. Yes, when the perception of chaos is dominating our field of awareness is such a beautiful statement, because the field of awareness is ever peaceful. The peaceful field of awareness, the essence of who we are, of peace, is always present. It's a constant, unchanging, I am presence that is utterly peaceful. And chaos shows up, comes and goes. Chaos is what comes and goes, not peace. And I want to speak to this in another way that ties in many things that we've been all talking about this evening or this morning in different countries, and which is that when we're feeling peaceful and when we're feeling safe, Like if we imagine ourselves when we're feeling utterly, fully peaceful and safe, there's no fear. There's no chaos. And yet fear will tell us you need to be afraid in order to be safe. And this is the lie. This is the lie of fear. And when we tune into, actually, if we choose peace and we choose safety, we choose love, then it isn't relative. It's beyond the relative. And it's the constant state of the I am presence of being that we all are. Fundamentally, we are just a presence of being, a divine extension of the creator of love, the creator which is love, of which we are created as love and as peace.
Thank you, Bhavani. Thank you. Beautiful circle. So we've come to the end of our session of the Pulse for this month. And I just want to express deep gratitude for this beautiful circle here and for the global community who all joined us today. We had so many questions come in, and of course we couldn't answer everyone's questions, but we just want to honor you all, our beautiful global community, for showing up today and being with us from so many countries around the world. This weekend, we want to invite you to please keep connected with us. We have a few incredible highlights coming up this weekend, and I'll just share a few. Tomorrow, which is Sunday in American time, 10 a.m., 9 a.m., we have a movement meditation from Shiva and a whole group of yoga teachers who joined together and are doing 108 pranam session, which is going for a whole few hours. So it's a movement meditation that's inviting the whole world. If you like to practice synchronized movement meditation practice, we invite you to join. At 12 p.m. Pacific time, we also have the upload, which is a more dynamic conversation and an expression of cool videos from around the world that are very uplifting. And on Monday, we have our big climax, which is actually the International Day of Peace. And at 8 p.m. Israel time, which is 10 a.m. in West Coast time, America, we have a concert from Jerusalem, from a rooftop overlooking the old city of Jerusalem, with interfaith musicians and spiritual leaders who will be sharing peace prayers and peace songs to the whole world. And many, many organizations will be streaming this. And we invite you all because it's going to be a global synchronized prayer moment for the world for peace. So we'd like to invite you to join us. So you can check everything out at globaldaysofunity.com. And please keep connected. And we'd like to end today with, I would like to invite Kristin to please, if you can end this beautiful session with a song, that would be amazing.
It would be my honor. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Chris. Each of you on this panel is a mentor for me, and thank you for helping me to grow in this life. I'm so inspired. I want to end with a piece which is called Soul's Calling. And in this space, as we are exploring peace, I feel like this song really brings me to that space that we all know. And there's no words, it's in the language of the soul. So you can just feel the melody, feel the music, and it is speaking whatever language you want to interpret. Here we go.
Kristin, that was so exquisite. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone, again. Blessings. And we'll see you all next time.
Blessings. Blessings to all.
Blessings.